I was a little apprehensive when Monica asked me to do this. It's not an easy thing, I find out, to think about what your story is. And I've gone through 63 years of material, and none of it is really that great. Because I was born into what I consider a special family. My mom was a Christian before she was married, and my dad found need of divine guidance somewhere around my second birthday. And I don't know if the two events had any correlation or not. I never knew a time when God wasn't part of my life. Went to a little country church called Haley's Grove Church, and pretty much lived there. That was home away from home. My dad ran a general store called Kimmer and Bristow down in Crab Orchard, and the motto of the store was, "If we ain't got it, you don't need it." The kind of the predecessor of Walmart. Dad worked a lot. He opened the store at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he worked at least till dark every day. So he had a minimum of 12 hours, and usually in the summertime, 16, 17 hours. He worked 6 days a week. He did that for 22 years. I remember him taking 2 weeks of vacation, and one of those he went to Florida with an older couple. Left the kids at home. So we didn't do a lot of vacations when I was a kid. My mom ran the farm and the house, and we raised tobacco and cattle and gardens and did a lot of work, and spent a lot of my life with my mother out in the fields, and she taught me a lot about everything. In fact, she would assure me lots of times out in the cornfield or the tobacco field that someday I would thank her for teaching me how to do things. Because when I was older, I would know how things worked and how to do a lot of things. And I don't know if I ever got around to thanking her for that, because some of those days got awful long out there in those hot fields. But back to Haley's Grove, we spent most of our free time there, and we had a lot of good friends and a lot of good church family. And I remember when I was 7 years old, I became a Christian. And a lot of people think that's pretty young and question the validity of that kind of experience, but I can assure you that it was real. I gave all I was at that time. I went to an evangelical church, I guess is what you would call it, and I know that I must have had something in me, because I went to witness to my best friend, who was raised in the Church of God of Prophecy up the street. And I remember asking him if he was a Christian, and his response to me was, "Well, I've been saved and sanctified, but I hadn't got the Holy Spirit yet." And I told him, I said, "Well, you ought to come to our church, because we get it all at the same time." I didn't really understand all of what my friend Lehman told me there, but it turned out that was a pretty profound statement, that we get it all at the same time, because I felt like I had it. I felt like I had everything that I needed, and I grew out into a world that I was not prepared for, I guess. You spend a lot of time in Sunday school, and you learn a lot of things about the Bible and things like that, but you don't learn a lot about this family that I grew up in. My mom and dad were both leaders in the community and just special people. I had an older brother who, Monica was talking about her oldest daughter, called her St. Jill and how perfect she was. My brother was that way. He was just a really sharp guy, very intelligent, and he followed all the rules. And I was not that way. I guess I had something to prove. I wanted to be special, maybe like the rest of my family, and I wasn't too sure that I was. When I was, I guess, about 13 years old, I went to a basketball game down at Crab Orchard Elementary School, and we were playing Homestead that night. And there was this cheerleader from Homestead that really caught my eye. There was something special about her. It may have been that she was the only girl I had seen lately that was less than a foot taller than me. But I had a friend who went to Homestead, and he was a friend of mine from Haley's Grove, and I asked him who that was. And he told me her name, and so when I went off to high school that fall, I looked around for that little cheerleader, but she wasn't there. High school was a really difficult time for me. I got off into a lot of things, I guess trying to prove that I was special, and really just became pretty much a jerk. The next year, that little cheerleader showed up at high school, and I was thrilled to see her. But she didn't share the enthusiasm. She was a very popular young lady, and I did everything that I could to get her attention, a lot of stupid stuff. Some of it, I mean, she did notice me. She knew my name, but it took me until my junior year to get her to agree to go out with me, and that was sort of sneaky. I had a friend who was dating one of her friends, and he arranged a double date for me. So we did get acquainted a little bit, and I thought we hit it off really well, but the second date was a little harder to come by. She became a big part of my life, and we were married while we were in college, and still hang out with her today. I guess she and my mother were probably the biggest influences in my life, and probably had it not been for them, I wouldn't even be here talking to you today. Story. I told Monica when she asked me to do this, my story, I told her I didn't have a story, which I don't have an event that really turned me around and made me different. My story is 63 years of ups and downs, good times, bad times. Through all of it, through my whole life, God has been with me, and couldn't have made it without it. Miracles, bunches of miracles in my life, healings, things with my children that God got us through and got us through well. I've had times when I was just very keenly aware of His presence, and other times I ignored Him completely, but He never forsook me. I go back to my story about Lehman when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I told him that he ought to come to our church because we get it all at the same time. I've discovered over my lifetime that we don't get it all at once, that what Jesus gives us is the power to become the sons of God. And that's a long process. It's not something that happens instantly. I go back to my story about Lehman when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I told him that he ought to come to our church because we get it all at the same time. I've discovered over my lifetime that we don't get it all at once, that what Jesus gives us is the power to become the sons of God. And that's a long process. It's not something that happens instantly. Now, I know that some people are transformed dramatically. I know it happens suddenly. But for most of us, or many of us, it's a lifetime process. And He shapes us and molds us throughout the events of our life. And my name is Tom Bristow. This is my story. Is it your story?